Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, usually joined by Chris Emerson, but I'm going to do it solo today. Just going to talk about the Wolves for a little bit, as we love to do. But before we get going, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. We're going to start with Apple Podcasts, reading off some reviews that we have gotten, some 5-star reviews. So if you want to be included with that, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple, and leave a review on Apple. So anyway, the Minnesota Timberwolves just won their 5th game in a row. Now, granted, there are some caveats to this. The total games under 500 of the last 5 opponents are 71 as we stand right now. But the good news is the Wolves have taken care of business, because at the end of the day, a win or loss is all that we'll see at the end of the season. It doesn't matter how many you win by. It doesn't matter who you beat. The Wolves have won the last 5 games of their 5-game winning streak, and this includes a 2-point squeaker against the Miami Heat by an average of 13.2 points. Pretty impressive there. So an easy schedule, but you took care of business at the same time. To be honest, this is how the Wolves are supposed to look. And I think that Randle and DiVincenzo and Ant are finally starting to get their groove here a little bit. Particularly, DiVincenzo has been fantastic since coming back from injury. He's been so good recently. In fact, he's shooting 54% from 3 since he's been back from injury. In fact, for the year, you remember when his 3-point percentage was down in like the near 30%, 32%? It's actually up to 39.5%. So almost a 40% shooter on high volume. And I know we've said this time and time again on the podcast, but we said that Donte DiVincenzo was going to come in, shoot about 9 threes a game and hit about 4 of them. That's exactly what he's been doing, and actually a little even better than that recently. So DiVincenzo is fitting well. Also, I think Julius Randle has been awesome lately. He still has the turnover issue, but let's be honest, that's going to come when you're a big focal point of the offense, particularly when you play the way that Julius Randle plays. That can be tough for sure with the turnovers. But over his last 2 games, 18 assists total. So he's averaging 9 assists a game. In fact, I think he had 9 in each game. He's been on triple-double watch very subtly here for the Timberwolves. And not only that, it's not just the assists. He's hitting wide open 3-point shooters. Now, we talked about this last podcast, but particularly I was watching the game against the Charlotte Hornets. But he drew so much attention that not only could he hit 3-point shooters wide open, they had time to pass the ball to someone else and they were still wide open. Now, is that an indictment on the Charlotte Hornets? You can debate that, but he's just been really good lately. And this was Chris Finch and the front office, Tim Connolly's vision when they made the trade for Karl Anthony Towns. Like, this is the way that it was supposed to look. Now, like I said, is it a smokescreen because we're playing really bad teams? I guess we'll find out on Wednesday. Although I will say what we have positive for us is the Wolves in the Western Conference. They have the easiest remaining schedule going forward. They're actually 27th in the league. There's a couple East teams that have an easier schedule, but in the West, we have the easiest remaining schedule. The opponent's winning percentage is 443, so below 500. Now, what we have left: 2 against Denver, 1 against Memphis, 1 against the Bucks, 2 against the Pacers, 1 against the Detroit Pistons. What we have left on the easy side, 2 against the Utah Jazz. And I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. I think I put out a tweet. By the way, you can follow us running with the Timberwolves on X, I should say, and Blue Sky soon. We're going to be on Blue Sky very soon, still figuring that out. But the end of the year, the Wolves have a schedule that looks like this. There's some tough opponents, but the last 2 games, they play Brooklyn and Utah. Now, we've seen Utah. Now, obviously, they beat us with that one game, but you got to imagine with this, if the season were on the line, that's what you want to have at the end of the year, because the Nets are nowhere near the playoffs. They're probably going to be playing two-way guys at that point, and we've seen the Utah Jazz tank out recently as well. So that's a nice safety net. If you need 2 wins at the end of the season, now obviously you have to go out and get them, right? There's nothing guaranteed in the NBA, but you got to imagine those 2 games, as your last 2 games, is a nice little cushion at the end of the year. And obviously the team that we are chasing, we're kind of chasing them. They're percentage points ahead. I believe they have the tiebreaker with us. The Golden State Warriors, the left strength of schedule is 507, which is the 4th easiest schedule in the Western Conference. What they have left is the Lakers once, 2 against the Nuggets, 1 against the Knicks, 1 against Memphis, 1 against the Rockets, 1 against the Bucks. They're easy opponents. 1 against the Pelicans, 1 against Toronto, 2 against the Spurs, 2 against the Blazers, 1 against the Heat, and 1 against the Hawks, who are actually playing pretty well right now. If we want to look at the other teams that are in the hunt right now, I know the Clippers got a big win last night on Kawhi Leonard's game winner. That was crazy to watch. The other teams in the Western Conference that are in the mix, the Clippers, like I said, their left strength of schedule, 520. They're ranked 8th in the Western Conference for remaining strength of schedule. What they have left is the Cavs twice, the OKC Thunder once, the Knicks, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Rockets, and the Warriors. And then they also have some easy teams as well. The Sacramento Kings have the 2nd hardest schedule left in the NBA, 559. And they still have the Cavs, Thunder, the Celtics, Denver, New York, and the Grizzlies. So tough road for them, particularly dropping it last night. I think the Kings, I think it's on NBA TV, they play tonight against the New York Knicks. Obviously, no Jalen Brunson in that one, but go Knicks, obviously. And that's the good news, though, is the Wolves have the easiest strength of schedule in the Western Conference. They're firing on all cylinders right now. Hopefully, they can continue that through. But another good thing, the Wolves' depth last night. Basically, unless your name is Jalen Clark, if you got in the game last night, you other than at the end, when the game was up for grabs, basically. If you got in the game, if your name's not Dillingham, if your name's not Justin Edwards, you scored 10 points. The Wolves had 8 players in double digits last night. You love to see that kind of distribution, because that takes a little bit off of Ant's plate when he can look at the team and go, I don't need to take a transition 3 right now, or I don't need to do it by myself and face all these double teams. When you have players that are versatile and can score and can help out on the offensive end, that is huge for the confidence of an Anthony Edwards and just the rest of the team. Like I said, Julius Randle slinging it all over the place. The attention that he garners when he attacks the paint, and I think he's doing it quicker now. I think he's doing it much quicker, attacking the paint. I think he's making quicker decisions, because at the beginning of the season, it just seems like if Randle gets the ball, he's going to bog down the offense for a good 5-10 seconds. It just feels like Julius Randle was a black hole at the beginning of the season. But now you're seeing him making quicker decisions. You're seeing him at the point of attack where he's drawing double and triple teams. You're seeing him kick out to wide open shooters. And to their credit, they're hitting the shots. And it's just awesome to see. So much so that, remember when we were talking about at the beginning of the year, the Wolves struggling offense? I think their offensive rating was somewhere in like the 26 range at some point, which is horrible, particularly for a team that's going to compete. The Wolves are now up on the season. This isn't just the past couple games, but overall, they're up to 10th in offensive rating, 115.4. And we're talking about other guys contributing, and you can't talk about that without talking about Jaden McDaniels, who has just been awesome. He's been great. He's been the player that we've wanted him to be for years now. Now, he's always going to bring it on defense, right? He's always going to bring you elite defense, although I do think he gets switched off a lot, and that diminishes his defensive effort. Not effort, but his defensive impact a lot when the first play is always a pick and roll, and then he gets switched off, and then Gobert's got to make a decision. But in his career, Jaden McDaniels has scored 20 points or more 27 times in his career. 27 times he scored 20 points or more, which seems low. This year, he scored 20 points or more 9 times. And since the new year, since 2025, 8 of those have come since the turn of the new year, since the end of 2024, which is just astounding. Jaden McDaniels is on a roll, and this is the player that we've wanted him to be for so long now, and we're finally getting to see it. Now, the question comes in, are we saving him, or is he playing well, and then are we going to trade him to Phoenix for Kevin Durant? We're going to talk on that on a different podcast for sure, where we're going to go in that, particularly in the offseason. We're going to talk about that immensely. Right now, I'm not on the blow it up for Kevin Durant train. I'm not on that train. Some other people may be, and that's fine, but I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm really not on the train, particularly with how good this team is clicking. Now, if the Wolves, let's say, make the playoffs, or even if they're in the play-in, and let's say they don't even make the playoffs, or they go in the first round and lose in the first round, like 4-1 or something like that, then you can start talking about it. You can start talking, okay, do we need an elite scorer like Kevin Durant, even at his old age, I believe of 37, maybe even 38. But, I mean, Jaden McDaniels has just been awesome lately. Last 10 games, 19.3 points, and this is also impressive, 7.9 rebounds. I feel like Jaden at the beginning of the year would just have all these games where he'd put up like 9 points, 3 boards, and he played good defense, but he still is a liability behind the 3-point line. He's only shooting, that's what's crazy. Jaden's playing so well. He's playing so well, but he's only shooting 26% from behind the 3-point line. So horrible. He's almost getting worse from behind the 3-point line, but thankfully the tough twos are going in recently. But Jaden, awesome offensively recently. Rudy, I thought, looked good in his return. He was in foul trouble, so didn't have to do too much, but I did feel like when he was out there, you could definitely tell the defensive presence that Rudy brings. I almost like this kind of concoction where you can almost preserve Rudy Gobert a little bit, where have him play 25, kind of like Conley, have him play 20 to 25 minutes a night, which I don't really care. Like, bring him off the bench. You could even bring him off the bench, although I don't know. I'm not too. Chris has talked about this. I brought up that, this guy should start. This guy should start. But I think on this team, like, I don't think the starting lineup matters too much to these guys because they're still going to play a lot. They're still going to contribute and let the hot hands stay on. But that's why I didn't mind him, Coach Finch, starting Conley and Rudy last night because A, that's how the season started. B, well, let's see what these guys got, right? I mean, Mike Conley has been awesome lately. There was this tweet from Jace Fredrickson, best three-point shooter in the NBA since January 17th, minimum 90 attempts. So January 17th, so a month and a half ago. Mike Conley shooting 47.8%. Now he's right on the line, minimum 90 attempts. He's only had 90 attempts, but he's been efficient. He's been really good from behind the three-point line. Throw Rudy out there, and then 5-6 minutes in, let's get our guys in. Let's get DiVincenzo in. Let's get Naz Reid in the game. Because I think, and Chris has talked about this extensively, what's more important is who finishes the game. It's more important who finishes than who starts. And he likes to bring up that quote from Ricky Rubio where he said, I would rather finish a game than start it. I mean, the ultimate example is Manu Ginobili, probably a Hall of Fame career coming off the bench. But, and particularly games like last night, 8 different players scoring in double digits. I mean, who cares who comes off the bench at that point? As long as there's not a schism in the locker room. Vikings fans can remember way back in the day with Brett Favre, how the headline was, there's a schism in the locker room. I remember that fondly. But, I mean, if you're contributing, who cares if you're starting? How much better does that make the Wolves if they have guys off the bench who are contributing that much? I mean, that's awesome. Now, if Mike Conley slows down and for the stretch run, I see maybe DiVincenzo going back in the starting lineup. I wouldn't mind that either. I would not mind that. But I think you see with the Timberwolves, I think you see that DiVincenzo and Naz are going to probably play more than Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley, regardless of who starts. It's just, I think that Chris Finch likes to go with a little stability to start the game. I think he trusts Mike Conley. I think all the years of him watching him and being the top guy, I think he trusts in the Conley-Rudy pick and roll, which was pretty good last night. And I just think that he wanted a little stability with Rudy Gobert coming off of injury. And to his credit, it worked last night. They were pretty good. Pretty good. Now, I know they were saying on the broadcast, it was interesting having Alan Horton doing the broadcast last night. And what a bunch of riches that the Wolves have. Because they get on the radio, they get Alan Horton, who's fantastic. Seriously, if you only watch games on TV and you don't listen to Alan Horton on the radio, you are missing out. I would say, now I'm biased because I'm a bigger Wolves fan than I am Vikings fan, but I would say he's Paul Allen level. Like, he's really good calling the games. And then you got Michael Grady calling the games, I mean, as you've seen, ESPN has taken notice already. They're grooming him to be big time. I don't know how long Michael Grady's going to be here, but can't get better than that. And then last night, you have Paul Allen calling the game, which I didn't listen to it, but I would love to go back to see what kind of Paul Allen isms he put on that game. I would love to hear it. But, man, just blessed we are to have. And then Jim Peterson, great color guy, awesome. A lot of great analogies, a lot of great knowledge from years playing in the NBA. But the Wolves, when you're watching or listening to a game, they got you covered. Absolutely. So big game coming up for the Timberwolves against the Denver Nuggets. Huge game, gigantic game, because you got to keep pace with the Warriors. And I don't know. I feel like the Warriors are going to keep rolling. They've been great since the All-Star break. They've been awesome. And the Warriors play tonight. I believe it is a pretty easy opponent. Well, I don't know. The Portland Trailblazers. You know, if you've been watching the Wolves all season long, you know what the Trailblazers can do to teams in the upper echelon, like you saw them do to us that little run there where we lost 2 in a row to Portland. It almost seems like a different team since back then, doesn't it? It just feels different, and I love it. But the Warriors, they do play the Portland Trailblazers at home tonight, 9:00 start. And then it gets a little tougher for them. The Kings at home, the Kings have a tough go of it because they play the Knicks tonight and then the Warriors. Then they have the Knicks, and then they have the Nuggets, all at home. But still, tough road trip for them. Then they have the Bucks, and then it gets a little easier with the Raptors, Hawks, Heat, and Pelicans. But Wolves just got to keep winning. Wolves just got to keep winning. All right, I want to get to this. Make sure to, if you're on Apple Podcasts, well, on either Spotify and or Apple, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you think we deserve. I want to read one that we got in. It's called, the title of the review is A Show for Dedicated Wolves Fans. This is from D Smith 95. It says, Gabe and Chris provide excellent and honest commentary on the Timberwolves franchise. Both are diehard and true Wolves fans who have seen the lows and offer an exciting take as the franchise continues to ascend. Thank you so much, D Smith 95. We appreciate that. And go and leave your own 5-star rating and leave a little comment on Apple Podcasts, or just give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. This is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back later this week. And as always, go Wolves.